Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have a very, very special edition and we are launching our podcast with our very first guest. So her name is Oluchukwu Chiadika and she's a personal finance expert. Now, as you know, I'm a trader, of course, you know that. But one thing that I always advocate for is that as a trader, it's not enough to make money without knowing what to do with trading profits. And it's not enough to just be a trader and all you do is just you trade, place trades. It gives you a very redundant lifestyle. So the overall idea of the channel is to produce a well-rounded trader. And that's exactly, why we're here today. So I'm going to be asking her questions. I first ran into her on social media. Instagram suggested her profile. And then when I looked at it, some of the things she spoke about resonated with me. In my very first profitable year in trading, made good money, couldn't account for it, couldn't say, okay, this is where that money went to, or this is what I did with that money. And it just goes a long way to tell you that there are lots and lots of traders and young people as well that probably have a good income, but the problem is that, they don't know how to manage that money. They don't know how to live, within the means of what their resources can provide them. And today, I'm having that very discussion with her. I'm speaking with a very, very big professional in that area. Her main focus is helping young people get their finances right. So, Oluchukwu, you're very much welcome to the channel, and thanks for showing up. You had quite a schedule, but somehow you're able to make it. So you're very much welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to share.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. So thank you. I think one thing that when I first saw your channel, the first thing that came to my mind is, of all things, why personal finance? Like, what inspired you to, choose personal finance as something that you're passionate about and something that, you're willing to talk to young people about? How did you get started? What led you to it?
Okay, so really simple story. The same way you realized after a while that you had been making a lot of money and you were not accounting for it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you had a very good start or a wake-up call to personal finance. Mm-hmm. I actually invested a lot of my money and lost it all. Oh, that was the beginning of my personal finance journey. Wow. So growing up, I started my first business really early. Mm-hmm. I did the petty trading from primary school. I made money, did secondary school, did service-based. Mm-hmm. I went to the Polytechnic first. I was doing service-based and I was making money. Yes. And I was good. I graduated. So I had the same entrepreneurship energy. I love to provide services rather than product. Mm-hmm. I was making good money. I had multiple jobs. So it's not like now that there's remote job. Me, I've been doing a lot of multiple gigs and remote work all the while, right? And then it got to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm a good girl. I'm a big girl. I'm saving. I'm earning. Let's start from I was earning, I was saving, I had a lot of money saved up. And then we got to the junction of investing. And that was how I threw all of my life savings. Wow. So number one thing, if you ever think about investing, learn from my mistake. Never invest all of your money.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Never, ever invest all of it. No matter how much of a risk profile you have, you don't want to wake up one morning and decide to start from the beginning, the very beginning. So you need to have like something you can fall back to. And that was the beginning of personal finance, girl. Yeah. Because when I realized I'd made that error, I was actually reading a book. I was reading The Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah. And then there are questions that pops up when you read the book. Like you obviously have to introspect, right? I was introspecting from reading the book and I realized that that money is gone. So it was like a week later or so, after reading the book and realizing for myself, I had thrown away my money. That's when it all started to unfold in real life. Like, okay, so what was the next step? What was I going to do? Was I going to sit down and mope over spilled milk and be like, oh, I'm never going to invest again because my first investing experience was a bad one? I was going to pick myself up. I'd made money, I'd saved it. Okay, we can repeat the cycle. Let's go over it again. But this time, we're not going to be making that same mistake. So over the years, that was around like 2015, 2016. Over the years, like almost a decade now, 9 years.
Yes, 9 years now.
Yeah. So I immersed myself in learning because I wasn't going to make the same mistake 2 times.
Yeah.
And I was not going to say because I made a mistake in investing, I'm going to stop expanding my income stream or stop saving so that I can have something to fall back to. That was the actual beginning. And then luckily, family and friends realized that this guy's doing something right.
Yeah.
And I used to get a lot of questions. Oh, you're very conscious about your money. What are you doing? How can I be better? And all of that. So I had friends, acquaintances that would ask me questions. And when they would do these things, it actually worked for them and they came back with positive reviews. And I'm like, okay, since I have this effect on people, how about I expand it out? And obviously, I couldn't just open my mouth and start talking to people about money without proof. I couldn't open my mouth without experience. And then it led me to learning more.
Yeah.
So I had to learn. And I'm like, okay, it's time for us to go live. I came public in 2020.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I came.
4 years now.
Yeah, that's when I came public. And when I came public, I did my personal page throughout the year. And at the beginning of early 2021, the first quarter was when I was like, okay, let's get a brand. It's personal finance I want to do because then I was already, I did a lot of business. So I had a majority of experience, like hands-on, raw experience in business. Too. But I was like, no, I don't want to do business. Anybody can do business. But you see, personal finance, nobody taught me how to do my money. When I went to school or when I was earning, nobody told me that when you finish earning, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And every time I was in the hall with over 500 to 1,000 people over the weekend. And when I asked how many of us got at least a formal or informal sort of education, I can tell you that only 2 people raised up their hand in that hall.
Wow. Out of 500 people.
It was mine. I'm like, it means I'm not doing my work because fine, they didn't get formal education, but at least it means more people need to know what to do next after earning. Because everywhere you go, business, learn how to earn. But what happens after? And that was where the error came from. And both of us even have different experiences that shows that yes, there was actually a gap in the knowledge.
Wow.
So that was where YPFG started from.
So I mean, you have a very interesting, story with regards to how you started. And I think one thing that one very rare skill that young people have is the ability to, introspect, look within and ask themselves questions. But one thing is that I like to know is, let's just say I'm a young person, right?
Okay.
I've probably made mistakes with money. I've probably lost a lot of money to maybe betting. And like those days when there was MMM, lost money on MMM, and all those things. How do I redeem myself and, try to get my finances back on track? As a young person who has probably missed it at some point, right? How do I begin to retrace my steps as someone who has made a mistake? Where do I start from? Like, where do I begin from?
So now you're a young person, you see that you've made mistake and you want to start retracing your step. You can start from noting out what the mistakes are. So there are a lot of people who would make the same mistake over and over again because they've not sat down to evaluate, okay, where exactly in this process is it broken? So they might be doing the same thing and they're repeating it, but you're not taking time to see what broke, where exactly the problem is coming from. So that's the first thing. Once you're able to know, okay, this is where the problem is it betting? Is it impulsive spending? Is it giving all your money to family and friends? Once you're able to know where the problem is, you can now know, okay, what the solution should be. So once you're a young person that you found yourself at a particular point in time that you've made some certain mistake with your finances, the next thing is to figure out what that mistake is. Once you figure it out, start looking for ways to fix it. And how can you fix it? Number one, you have to get knowledgeable. You have to understand, okay, what are the do's, what are the don'ts. The same way we have a baby would be born, a baby would crawl, a baby would walk. There's some fundamental things that are non-negotiable. Right? So you make money. When you make money, you need to tell it where to go. So you're budgeting. You need to keep some for later. You don't eat your fruits. When you eat your fruit, you don't eat the seed as well or throw away the seed. You keep it so you can plant it during the next season so you can earn more. So you save. And when you save, because you've saved something, you now have a seed that you want to plant. That means you have something that you want to put back that's going to bring more, which is now investing. So you have to go ahead to put this money somewhere, or send it on an errand to bring you more money. These are like the basic of the basic things,
Yeah.
right? So let's say, okay, your own error might be falling into debt. You have like a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So you need to now understand where you even stand when it comes to the debt. Who are the people you're owing? Are they corporations? Are they companies? Are they individuals? Consolidate everything, gather it, and know what the figure is. Some people are owing money, they don't even know how many they are owing.
Yeah, and how much it is.
They don't know how much it is. They just know that they are drowning in debt, they are struggling, they are not okay. But that's the point, looking for the problem. Once you gather the debt, let's say we're using debt as an example, you gather the debt, you know what you're owing, then you can now say, okay, this is a payment structure I want to use. I want to pay off the ones that have highest interest first. I want to start somewhere so I can motivate myself. I want to starting by paying the smallest amount. So by the time I sit down up, I'll tap myself on the back.
Yeah,
and
you feel
move
good.
to the next one.
Yeah.
You feel good, you move on. So like that, these are like the basic of the basic things that you want to get acquainted with as someone who has realized that, okay, I think it's time for me to take my money serious.
Okay, well, this I think I love the angle that you're looking at it from, because this is, I think, this aspect of that what you say, you don't eat the fruit and eat the seed. There's this thing you always see on social media. You see, there's this one that someone posted. He said, "Now to go start turkey business. So if hungry catch me, I fry one chop first." So where young people have a problem is being able to balance, because one of the reasons why we actually enjoy, or why we actually work, is so that we can have a certain kind of lifestyle. So how do you strike that balance between I'm preparing for my future, I'm saving for the future, but at the same time I don't want to be miserable within the moment?
Oh, that is very, very important.
Yeah. So how do you balance
So
that?
a lot of people think that for me to be able to get better on my finances, I have to be stingy, I have to stop living life, I have to save every money that comes to my hand. No, please, no. You can actually live life, live your life comfortably, and still build wealth, and still manage your money. All these things can coexist. It is now you that would sit down and plan. This is where the budgeting part now comes in, right? So let's say now you're someone who loves to go out.
Yeah.
You love to go out, you love to hang out with friends. And you also want to build wealth, right? You want to have savings, you want to have investment, you want to have assets of all classes.
Yes.
Do you know that you can actually go out, get assets, live your life, all at the same time? But where you strike the balance is knowing when to stop. So you cannot tell me that you earn 100,000 naira monthly and you like to go out, then you carry your 100,000 first of the month, you then decide to spend 50,000 on going out. And then the remaining 50,000 is what to pay transport, is what to feed you. No, it won't work.
No, never.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is now a situation whereby we'll now say, oh yeah, cut your coat according to your material.
Oh, material.
Your size can be bigger than you.
Oh yeah.
Yes. You have,
So it's the material you have, you used to cut.
It's the material you have. If it's one hand to sew, please and please sew the one hand. So when you are saying that it's only one hand you are wearing, you'll be motivated to go and make more money.
Oh yeah.
So you can wear the agbada, you can wear the designers without feeling guilty. So as a young person, I will tell you for free that you can live your life comfortably. You can decide to do all of the things that you really love to do without trading your comfort, without trading your future, without trading your investment, because that is where proper planning now comes in. That is where the budgeting now comes in. That is where telling your money exactly where it should go comes in.
Oh wow! You've obviously worked with a lot of clients, in this regard. People who consult with you on all of these things. Like, what's the biggest struggle you see, with young people? It could be something like maybe most young people might tend to live above their means. Maybe you say, oh, this person is oppressing me. So like, what's the most common denominator you see as, I mean, for instance, I provide trading education. I know the most common thing that students struggle with. So when it comes to personal finance, I mean, if I come to you now, I mean, definitely I'm going to be a baby person in that area again, right? So what's the most common struggle you see with,
I would just generalize because they're like 5 off the top of my head. But the most common of all is not having the knowledge. What my mentor would say is, you can only go as far as what your mind can allow.
Yeah.
And your mind can only know as much as what you consume. So that's like the basic of the basic problem that most people have. So it's not even about, there's also the popular ones living above their means, whereby they don't know that, you're not, if you earn 100K, by the time you're buying shawarma of 20K or going to a restaurant of 20K, you're living above your means. Because that's 20 whooping percent of your income.
Yes.
For one night.
Yeah.
What happens in the remaining 29 days or 28 days in the month?
Before the salary comes in.
Before the next salary comes in, right? So that's like regular, like people live above their means. There's a hush-hush culture that we have, whereby money is a taboo. Nobody talks about money. Nobody needs to know what you earn. Meanwhile, you are busy doing the wrong things without knowing.
There's this thing with young people, right? Where young people, there's this saying in Nigeria where you have, you find on social media, you see a meme online. It might be a meme, but the reality is, it's people's mindset. It's a lot of people's mindset. Where someone say, now to start turkey business, hunger catch me, I fry small chop. So when you think about it like that, it tells you that young people want to have income, but they also don't want, what young people don't want to miss out on is the good life. So how can someone who's aiming to build a secure future also strike a balance to not miss out on the good life, in the moment?
Yeah, so I think one thing that people tend to make mistake with is we tend to want to live on the two extreme ends. So no financial literacy and canceling everything about life.
No.
However, you're able to live your life in the moment, do the things you love to do, and still build wealth, still build that future that you want, still get those investments, still travel, still live life. So being financially literate, managing your money does not mean that you are stingy, does not mean that you have to be broke, does not mean that you have to strike out everything that makes your life beautiful. After all, let's look at it. You're the one working for the money. You're the one actually, at the end of the day, who would eventually spend this money, right?
Yeah.
So why exactly do you want to cut out all of the beautiful things in life because you're managing money? So what then happens is, you're in this point, for you to be able to find balance, you have to have like an actual budget, a realistic budget that works. And there's also this thing where many a times, because we're at two extreme ends of, I want to live life or I want to manage my money, we don't want to come to the middle. You forget that you can actually still cut your code according to your material, meaning that whatever you can afford in the moment is what you should be doing. So if you're earning 100K and you want to live life, you don't have any business spending 20K on a dinner just in one night by yourself. You carry yourself out to eat. You can actually still do other things, right? In that your 100K, that will make you happy. And then you can still save, you can still invest, and still pay your bills in that money. But then if you now come to the point or the conclusion that, this money is not enough, it's not going to allow me to live life. I have to choose whether pay my bills and be comfortable or live life and be miserable or getting depressed. What then happens is, you now know that this is the point to make more money. You now know that this is the point where you have outgrown that particular income. And then it is time to start moving. So many a times, you don't exactly, it's not rocket science. So those things that you love to do should reflect in your lifestyle. I always used to shout about how I don't joke with my human hairs. I do not, because it is important to me. So when I'm making my budget, there's provision for it.
You have to factor in,
When it comes to, let's say, makeup or going out, which is important to me, there is provision for, I'm working for this money. But that does not mean that I'm not saving. That does not mean I'm not investing. In fact, so I have this formula that probably you have to. Let me not say so people will not steal it.
Because you are not paying for it. That's premium
so
service.
You people will not steal my formula.
That's
But then
service.
I always ensure that when I'm investing, when I'm saving, I'm getting myself things that I really, really like. It could be an experience. It could be actual physical items. But I prioritize myself because who is working for the money? Me.
Yeah.
By the time I save the money, do delayed gratification, do all of those things, who is going to come and eat the money? Me.
Yeah.
So why not live in the moment and still plan for my future? It's possible. So yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think one thing that brings us to is that this is a skill by itself. So money, being able to manage your money is a skill by itself. And the question is, so people might be watching this and be thinking to themselves, oh, I mean, this sounds very difficult. Do you think it's something that every average Joe can do?
Yeah.
Or, it's just something that, because do some people know how to deal with money better? Now, since it's a skill, is it possible to say that some people have it better than others and then some people don't have it better than others? So if that is the case, the people that tend to have less of it, what becomes of them if that's the case? I mean, if it's a skill, it means ultimately people who have less of it might maybe they might just be doomed to be broke, going further down the line if that's the case. But if we're not to look at it that way, those people that we see, they don't have this skill because, I mean, for instance, when we provide education, I've seen people where, you've seen people where, they struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle. And at some point they just feel like, this is not for me. It's a skill. So can we equally bring that over to personal finance? And we say that some people, it's just a skill that, they can't really pick up on. And if that's the case, what becomes of such people?
No. Personal finance, I would always say personal finance is personal. However,
personal finance is personal. Wow,
personal finance is for everybody. The ability to manage money is for everybody.
Yes.
So that is where you personalizing it comes to play. I might be someone who loves to spend money and splurge money. I will still be able to manage my money in the right way and build wealth. And I may be somebody who doesn't want to spend my money. I can also still find a way to manage money and build wealth. Yeah. So the solution, or rather the method, the person who is a spender, a lavish spender will be using, can be the same method that the person who is you know what came to my mind?
Yeah.
Akagon. But no. So it is not the same method for someone who is tight-fisted, like someone who doesn't like to spend money. For that kind of person, we need to teach that person how to spend on themselves and find value and experience in that. But you see that person that is always spending money anyhow, we're teaching the person how to reduce it in a way that they do not go and eat their seed instead of just the fruit. Yeah. So that is in itself is a skill. It's a mindset thing. So personal finance is not math. Just in case you are thinking it is math. It is not math. It's less of math. It is more of mindset. 80% mindset, 20% of the numbers. So you're not thinking, okay, I want to calculate X, Y, Z. You're thinking, what is the repercussion of doing this? You're thinking, what can I do to get better? You're thinking, okay, how can I enjoy my life and build wealth at the same time? Yeah. It's not you saying that, oh, this thing is for some people. No. Hello, did they say that all of us cannot be billionaires in dollars? No. We can all make that money. We can all manage money. It's just you now training yourself to that point. Like you said, there are some people you would teach. There's some people that would get it. Some people. So everybody's learning pace would be different. Yeah. And now the beautiful thing about it is everybody's finances can never be the same. So both of us can decide now that we'll start earning 100K together. Your family responsibility might be different from mine. Your eating habits will be different from mine. Your going out will be different from mine. Even if we try to confine ourselves to the exact same positions, or rather the exact same scenarios, it can never be the same. But personal finance, managing your money is for everybody. It is for everybody.
Okay, well, now you know that it's for everybody. One thing that we've spoken about, it might be outside of, the context of this. It's not outside of it, it's within it, is looking at the Nigerian landscape. Because, if you are a personal finance coach in Nigeria, right? And if we are looking at the Nigerian landscape, someone who quote unquote earns 100,000, and we know that let's say for instance we are launching a new business now, it's going to cost a few millions to set it up, right? So the person who doesn't have that kind of leverage, who doesn't have money to put aside in a business and that kind of thing, what kind of investment is available to him? Because I mean all these fingers are definitely not equal.
Definitely.
So what kind of investment is available to the lowest of the income earners, and with that availability, how does it become a key for them to unlock bigger doors? Because I mean, we're talking about having small income and ultimately amplifying it. So what kind of investments are available within the Nigerian space? Because I mean, you might look at treasury bills, you might look at this, you might look at a handful of things that are but where can they look to? Because someone will be watching this and be thinking to themselves, oh, where can they look to? Because this thing right here is difficult. I'm not even joking. This thing right here. I mean, you've sat here with me for a few minutes and you've seen me go back and forth, on the charts and like, oh, Nvidia just did this just happened. It goes back and forth. So when we say, okay, come and learn how to trade now, the average person, what chance do they stand? Like, where can they start?
Okay, so very beautiful. I loved how you started with the leverage thinking. Not everybody is going to be on the same level, and obviously not all our fingers are not equal, right? So for someone who is on the lower end of income, like the lowest of the lowest income, think about minimum wage, right?
Let's put it 100,000.
Yeah. Okay, let's start from 100,000.
Yeah.
First of all, we are looking at, okay, what are your regular expenses like? What are those things you cannot do without? The food, the water, electricity, data, transportation to go and make the money and come back. Then we're thinking about, okay, do you have some sort of savings and all of that, right? So for somebody like that who doesn't have a lot, you probably might be able to do like 10% of that money. We're saying 10K. 10K is not a lot of money if you ask me. That's even barely $10, right?
Yeah.
So how far can he go, right? So for that kind of person, you should be looking at things like upskilling. So the only thing you should be aggressive about at that point in time is getting more financially literate so that you know how to manage your money better, you know how to identify opportunities when they come your way. You're also looking at practicing the basic fundamentals, so the income, expense, budgeting, saving, and then planning towards investing. And then you're like, okay, I think I already have a grasp of all of this. Then you could actually start your investment with as little as 5,000. If you're doing Naira, you can start with 1,000 Naira. Pardon me. You can start with 1,000 Naira. If you're doing Naira, you can start with 5,000 Naira, because you can now get fractional shares. You can now get stocks and the likes. You can get bonds. You can get mutual funds. You can get treasury bills under the 5,000 Naira bracket. You can get bonds, like, okay, I mentioned bonds already. So we're talking bonds, stocks, treasury bills. We're talking ETFs, mutual funds. We're talking ETFs. We're talking real estate investment trust. All of these things you can get in very minute, very tiny quantities, right? So the most important thing you should be looking at doing at a very low income level is upskilling your earning power. Because one thing you would be able to do is reduce your expenses to the barest minimum, but you can never max out on how much you can earn. We can see the richest people in the world. We can see the richest people in Africa. We can see the richest people in Nigeria. They keep going up above and beyond. It's never ending, right? So you can only go beneath your expenses for a little while. So once you're able to learn how to manage this money, and then you're able to upskill yourself to earn more, you're able to now pump this into that goal, that dream, that lifestyle that you've always wanted. So you're able to get those investments, that gold, you're able to get that real estate in another country and all of that. But if you remain at the 100K earning, that's not going to happen, because you're only going to be around that cycle. So as I mentioned, I started with having to be able to invest in yourself, because that way you're able to now move and climb the ladder.
Okay, so that's really fantastic. So what we're saying now is that a portion of the income has to go to personal development. So like if we have, let's say we have 100,000 naira, we're earning 100K, we have to be looking at taking a course on maybe real estate, on, I mean, just like the one you held the other day, I was there online as well. You have to be looking at taking a course in real estate. You might be looking at taking a course in programming language if it's something you're good at. So a portion of the income has to go to, you know, skill, and that also counts for an investment. I mean,
yes, it is. So the greatest investment you can ever do for yourself is investing in yourself, because it pays the highest return.
Yeah.
So no matter how much you spend learning, you would always make that money back in hundreds and thousands of percentages, because you would keep getting wiser, you will keep seeing opportunities, and most of the time, opportunities are missed because we cannot identify them, right? You can't see it. You can't see that, okay, this is something I should be doing, this is something I can do, or this is something that if I had learned that virtual assistant skill, I can actually start working for people abroad and earning in dollars from Nigeria. So those tiny things are what makes like icing on the cake for anyone.
Okay, so I mean, we've had a very fantastic conversation here. I mean, guys, I believe you're taking away massive value from this. So this is exactly what this is all about. It's all about education. It's all about being able to expand your knowledge as a person. And for me personally, I mean, this channel is dedicated to trading, but overall, what we really want to focus on, the goal is, we want people to be financially free. Whether you're doing it as a trader, or you're doing it from the real estate front, or wherever it is that you're doing it from. That's why you're going to be seeing me, and that's why you're going to be seeing me. I'm going to be interviewing people from, you know, different, you know, fields and different spheres of life.